What is Donald Trump doing? Well, Donald Trump has ordered, according to the Daily Mail, he's officially ordered Special Forces commanders in the United States military to draw up a plan for the invasion of Greenland. This is getting serious and very specific. He's made an order about an invasion of Greenland, which could be imminent. Now, the one thing holding it back is that senior military figures, according to the Daily Mail, believe that such an invasion would destroy NATO, would be unlawful. Donald Trump doesn't care and seems that he's more interested in destroying NATO right there. Now, in response, what we're also learning is GB reports that the United Kingdom may be sending troops into Greenland in order to call Donald Trump's bluff after Donald Trump's takeover threats. So this article goes on to talk about how the UK, along with its European allies, are saying, well, why don't we just put our troops there and say, look, we are doing a NATO surge in Greenland, call Donald Trump's bluff, prove that it's not about security against Russia or China in Greenland, because Greenland would already be protected by the NATO alliance.
European leaders did not simply wake up one morning and decide to speak out. Circumstances forced their hand. For months, Carney had been patiently building a very simple argument in private conversations. Silence only makes the situation worse. When Trump threatens borders, the risk does not fall solely on the country being targeted. The entire rules-based order that Europe depends on is shaken as well. That argument has finally begun to resonate, and when leaders such as Emmanuel Macron publicly warned that Trump's threats against Canada, including references to a 51st state, would seriously damage the global order, it marked a turning point. Canada is no longer alone. Support is now taking shape on a global scale. Mark Carney's upcoming visit to China is not a ceremonial diplomatic gesture. It is a carefully calculated signal, and Washington will undoubtedly scrutinize every detail. For many years, Canada's international role was relatively predictable. Europe was the political arena, the United States the economic axis, and Asia kept at a safe distance. That balance collapsed once trade dependence was turned into a tool of coercion. Carney understands that reality has changed. Canada's decision to engage China directly at the highest level, including meetings with Xi Jinping, demonstrates that Ottawa has influence beyond Washington's orbit and is prepared to use it when necessary. This matters especially because it strikes at one of Trump's core vulnerabilities. The US auto industry is a clear example. Chinese electric vehicles are cheaper and more competitive each year, which is precisely why Washington is working so aggressively to keep them out. If Canada were to open its market to Chinese EVs, economic pressure would emerge right along the US border, directly affecting prices, supply chains, and investor confidence in American automakers. Trump fears that scenario because once Chinese EVs gain a solid foothold in Canada, the protective barriers around the US auto market become far more fragile. This is the strategic core of the visit. Canada is not choosing China over the United States. What is unfolding is a rebalancing of leverage. With Europe aligned politically and China entering the picture as an economic partner, Canada is making itself significantly harder to coerce. Tariffs begin to lose their effectiveness. Threats gradually ring hollow. Carney is not trying to provoke a reaction from Trump. He is rendering that reaction meaningless. This must be stated clearly. Canada is not switching sides. Canada is not abandoning its alliances. This is not a provocation. In fact, for someone like Trump, it is far more dangerous because it demonstrates independence. When a country shows that it has options, real options, intimidation loses its force. Tariffs are no longer a decisive weapon. Threats no longer work. And that is why this visit to China will unsettle Trump, not on an emotional level, but because it undermines the very foundation of power on which he has relied.
So now is America going to war with Iran? Because that was what your threat was. If they kill the protesters, they're killing the protesters. So now what? So now you go to war with Greenland, you go to war with Iran. You go to war with Venezuela, which you call a legal operation, which is ridiculous. You threaten wars with Cuba, Colombia. You threaten to bomb Mexico, and that's why they're protesting there. I mean, what the hell? The hell is even going on right now?
Trump thrives on disorder. He draws more energy when leaders appear panicked, divided, or rush to placate him individually. What he does not know how to deal with is calm, organized resistance grounded in legitimacy. Carney does not attack Trump. He does not inflame tensions through theatrical confrontations. He does not feed the cycle of outrage. Instead, he builds alliances that render outrage ineffective. And that is what makes this more dangerous. This story is not only about Trump as an individual. It raises a much larger question: whether the world will accept threats replacing rules, brute force overriding law, and intimidation becoming a normalized form of diplomacy. The protests, the wave of pushback from Europe, Canada's diplomatic actions, and the visit to China are not isolated pieces. They are a collective act of self-defense by a global system under pressure. Trump may still dominate headlines, but he no longer determines the overall direction. The streets are speaking, allies are drawing closer together, and leaders like Mark Carney are stepping forward not to create more chaos, but to contain it. In moments like these, restraint is not a sign of weakness. It is a mark of leadership. If you value calm and clear analysis in a global political climate that is growing louder and more dangerous, not just for tomorrow but for the road ahead, I want to hear your views. As protests intensify worldwide, Europe responds more forcefully, and Carney expands Canada's diplomatic front to China. Has the world truly drawn a line with Trump? Or is this only the beginning of something even larger? Share your thoughts in the comments.